are many outlaw motorcycle gangs in the US today. We have the Hells Angels, we have the Mongols, the Bandidos, Outlaws, Sons of Silence, but the one most dangerous gang that I didn't mention on that list was the Sons of Collidon. And the reason they're so dangerous is because of their leader Caesar King, because of her big, fat, voluptuous knocker. Outside of smothering you with those things, she'll also be destroying you with her spiky shield, and this makes any opposing force quiver in their boots while giving the rest of your allies a morale boost. That's the best way that I can describe Caesar King, and that's why we're talking about her today, and why you should and or should not summon for Caesar King, because I think she can be great for a plethora of accounts, but I don't think that she's the best option for every account. So we're gonna hop into all of her pros, cons today, how she works, and then a comparison with Miss Burnice at the end, the other biker gang member that we love so much that shoots flamethrowers out. Yippee! I actually have a little chart right here where we can look at the Caesar King breakdown. First of all, guys, like I mentioned, she gives shield for the team, so let's go ahead and put that down here. She's going to be providing a shield for your whole team, which means they're not taking damage because this nullifies the damage. Yippee, that's great. Now, how do you increase the amount of shield that you get? You have to build impact, which means she is also a breaker type character. She is going to be breaking the enemy shield, so that's going to be great. She is a pseudo breaker that you can absolutely use to daze the fuck out of the enemies. So a decently good breaker there as well. Hopping into number 3, what do you get when you put the shield on your allies? You'll be getting plus 1,000 attack for your allies, so that's going to be really good there. This makes her very universal and can be used on a lot of different teams. We'll go into the more nitty gritty here in a second. Next, if you have someone on the team with a physical attribute and or the same Sons of Collidon faction that she's a part of, you'll be increasing the damage that enemies take within a 7-meter radius by 25%. So we'll put Vun right here, right? Vulnerability. Okay, that's good enough, right? 25% vulnerability. Next thing on the list here, guys, she has stagger resist, right? So this means whenever the enemy is hitting you, you're not getting staggered, which means you can follow through with your moves. Say you had a character like Jane Doe in your team and she gets hit, right? This would break her out of whatever animation she's in, but with stagger resist, that's not gonna happen. Or I guess what they call it is anti-interrupt level, which is basically the same as stagger resist in my eyes. So overall, with the shield, with the breaking, with the attack, with the vulnerability, with the stagger resist, what does this make her? Very, very versatile. This means you can run her on a lot of different teams. Now, if you're not running her on a Sons of Collidon and or physical comp or anyone on the comp with those things, then you're missing out on this 25% invulnerability here. But if you are running one of those characters on the team, you're going to get full use of that. But still, versatility is going to be king with her. Now, let's go ahead and get into a bit of a breakdown here. First of all, her shield is absolutely massive as long as you're building her into impact. So shield is going to be something that just keeps you alive. So this is going to be really good for those mobile players that are struggling in the harder content in the game. Not to say that the content's like really abysmally hard, but on mobile, I think it is a lot bigger of an issue to get off your skills and stuff like that. I know I have more issues on mobile, like dying and stuff like that. So having this big ass shield here is a really big plus for me, or if you're a mobile player, right? And this could also apply to PC players as well that aren't that technically inclined as far as dodging and everything like that, and you just kind of want to get through the content. You can kind of just steamroll it by putting a shield on yourself, right? So we're just going to put mobile here for the shield. Now for the breaking, she can act as a pseudo breaker, meaning you do not need, this is a minus here, guys, you do not need like a Lycon on your team because she can help provide some of that breaking. Not to say Lycon's not better at breaking, because he definitely is, but she can provide that pseudo role of breaking on the team. So if you don't have, you know, breakers like Koleda, you don't have breakers like Qingyi, you're not using Anbi or something like that, right? She is going to be a great option there as well. And not only this, guys, with her being a shielder and a breaker, she also offers plus 1,000 attack, which literally affects just about everyone's multiplier in the game for dealing damage. So this means you can throw her in just about any team, and that attack buff is going to help out any team, whether that's an anomaly team or that's a crit based team, right? So we're going to go ahead and throw that here too, right? Anomaly or crit based, right? Like, it helps both of those teams out. Attack buff is just helps out with really any type of damage right now in the game, unless it scales off of something like defense or HP. Not to mention, guys, that this attack bonus that Caesar King's giving is actually on par with the attack buff that Shokaku gives, but it's going to be for the whole team versus the next person that's following up after a quick assist or something like that, which to me makes it more versatile, because then you don't necessarily have to time up like getting in a quick assist or a chain attack to get the buff on the person that you want it to get on. So this is going to be really good for the aspect of just getting the buff on whoever you want without having to focus on much timing, which also plays into versatility and ease of play. So another buff that she's going to be doing, guys, is a vulnerability vulnerability debuff on enemies within 7 meters, as long as you're running her on a team with physical and or Sons of Collidon, right? The big thing I want to bring up here is, first of all, you're getting that attack bonus, right? This is the first thing in the attack, which kind of gives you the base multiplier that you're starting off with, or the base amount you're starting off with, then every other multiplier plays off of that. Damage taken multiplier is almost last in the chain, which means it is one of the best debuffs that you can possibly put on the enemy. And with it being 25% for 30 seconds, this is actually much better than the buff that Shokaku gives for ice type characters, which is niche to ice type characters, but it gives 20% for 22 seconds. Now, you would obviously have to mix and match here, right? Because they're not, ice characters aren't physical typing, obviously. So you would need to make sure either A, there's Sons of Collidon, or B, you have another physical type character on the team, which we'll talk about teams a little bit later in the video. But overall, I think she could technically be a better option on an Ellen team than Shokaku is. Now, that's just because of where this multiplier sits. It's much more than a damage bonus that Miss Shokaku's giving out. Now, testing obviously will have to be done to make sure that's actually true. That's my thought process on it. Higher multiplier equals more damage for the team, and with it being such a higher multiplier than what this can provide, that's going to be really good. So overall, if you can get vulnerability debuff, that is going to be really, really nice. Next on the list here is going to be stagger. Now, stagger resist and or anti-interrupt resist is going to be really good for scenarios where you're playing on mobile or something like that, right? This is just for ease of play of the game. This is going to be really good for ease of play, right? So let's just put ease of play there. Then finally, versatility. All of this together in the same basket, because she just does all of this different stuff. It makes her a buffer, which could be better than Shokaku. It makes her a shielder, which means she's defending your team. It makes you put debuffs on the enemy, which if you then get debuff-oriented DPS later on in the game, this can make her more future-proofable for your account. If you end up getting someone better for like one of these teams, right, you can just move her and put her on a separate team then at that point. So overall, I do think she offers a lot for free-to-play players, but now I want to get into a comparison. First of all, guys, what do we have for Caesar King? We have versatility, meaning she can be ran on a plethora of teams. Let's just put a lot of teams here, right? Now, for Burnice, on the other hand, right, she's very niche into anomaly. She is going to be played, for the most part, in anomaly-based teams, right? So let's just put Anam here, because that is where her bread and butter is at. She's a more niched-out character, and she's going to be a lot better for anomaly characters and anomaly teams than what Caesar King can offer in those situations. Now, the next thing I want to talk about here is actually teams. Obviously, we know Burnice is going to be ran on teams. We'll talk about her teams in a second here. She, like I said, versatility, she can be ran on just about any team, but let's talk about the realistic best in slot teams that she can be ran on, because I don't know how many best in slot teams there are, right? I want to take a look at teams that consist of Jane Doe, Juyeon, Ellen, and then Chingy as well, right? These are our 4 signature characters that we've gotten in the game so far. And what I want to look at here, guys, is the ability to slot her in. Where does she slot into on teams? Slot on teams, right? Because for her to be good, she needs the ability just to be able to replace one character on that team and slot in to make the team better, right? So let's take a look at what we currently have in the game right now. Starting off with Jane Doe, the most recent character. We have the character that's currently out in the game right now. Her best in slot teams are Jane Doe, Chingy, Seth, and Arena, right? Or her anomaly team, which is Jane Doe, Grace, and Seth, right? Realistically, on a Jane Doe team, what could you replace on this team to make this team better, right? If you have Chingy already, right? Say you pull Chingy, right? Then this team's kind of already built. There's not really much you can do to make this team better. If you're building an anomaly-based team, Grace is probably also better because she's offering a lot of anomaly. So if you don't have either of these characters, then sure, she fits in here. She is very versatile. She can work in this stun, sub-DPS, breaker slot on the team and work fine on the team, because she's also giving buffs to the team as well, right? Now, could she replace someone like a Seth? I think that she could replace someone like a Seth, right? Not only does he reduce the target's anomaly build-up res by 20%, he's also giving 50 anomaly proficiency to your allies as well, which makes him a more niche ally to anomaly-based teams that especially want anomaly proficiency, right? So, could you replace him? Sure, you could. You could give them a huge attack buff, but that also means you would then have to build Jane Doe even better in anomaly proficiency. Though her debuff does outweigh the debuff that Seth is able to bring, I think that could be a solution that you could possibly run on a team here. I think she could be a decent slot in option for Seth here, right? But if we're talking about resource building and everything like that, it might be an issue because resources are kind of hard to get in the game right now, but that's how I see it, right? I think if you don't have Chingy, it could be a great replacement for either Chingy or Grace if you don't have either of these characters, and I think they could even slot in for for Seth in this situation as well. So I don't necessarily think it's best in slot option, but if you don't have those characters, for sure, she slots in there perfectly. Right now, let's talk about Zhu Yuan, right? I think a Zhu Yuan team is the exact same way, because with a Zhu Yuan team, you're not running physical and you're not running Sons of Kalidon. So I don't think you can ever swap off Nicole in this team, because she plays off of having either someone from Neps or someone from a support type character on the team. If you already only have an Ambi on the team, maybe you could put her in, right? I think for a free-to-play team, she is a direct upgrade over Ambi. Now, I don't think that she is going to be anything more than that, though, right? If you have Chingy doesn't get replaced, Nicole doesn't get replaced, your team's set in stone. If you already have Chingy and Zhu Yuan, there is no replacement option for Zhu Yuan. This is going to be the best in slot team, Zhu Yuan, Chingy, Nicole. But if you had an Anby team, if you had a free-to-play team there, I think she slots in there really nice. Let's talk about an Ellen Joe team. I think Ellen Joe's the exact same way here. I don't think that she beats out the best in slot Ellen team, right? Like, I think if you had Lycon on your account's set. Like, your Ellen team is absolutely set. There's nothing that really needs to be changed there. I don't think she offers much to the table that more than what Lycon can bring. For a free-to-play team, I think she offers a lot more, right? Like, you could replace Shikaku here because she does give a 1000 attack buff to the team, and then on top of that, she does apply vulnerability to the enemy if you had someone like a physical type character on the team, or someone from the Sons of Kalidon like an extra buffer here, right? So maybe, I guess you could technically say, oh yeah, go in and replace Anby or Koleda here for Caesar King, and then for this Shokaku slot here, you put it in maybe a Lucy, right? So you're getting that buff off. You get the extra vulnerability debuff of the enemy, right? The main point I'm trying to make here is she's not a best in slot for a lot of teams. She's like a jack of all trades, right? Which gives you a lot of versatility like we mentioned before, but she's a jack of all trades, meaning she can be put into a lot of teams if you don't have the best in slot for those teams already. But who's to say she's not to get phased out when you pull these stronger characters for those teams? That's my main gripe here, is that I think she'll be easier replaceable in a sense where she is not the best in slot, because she is a jack of all trades and she can work on a lot of teams. She'll be great when you're building new teams up and you don't have all the characters for them, but whenever you get the full characters, she kind of drops down in value a bit, I feel. Now, if we're talking about someone like Burnice, right, I feel like Burnice is stun locked super hard in the anomaly category, right? So you're only running her in anomaly teams, right? This is like really the only way we're gonna run her, right? And as far as teams go here, right, if you're looking for a pure anomaly Jane Doe team, I think Burnice slots in perfectly for Grace. I think this is a good replacement for Grace here. I think if you replace Seth for someone like Caesar King on this team, right, I think the best in slot anomaly team is going to be Jane Doe, Caesar King, and then also Burnice as well. I think that's going to be a very, very solid team that you can run there, but that requires a lot more summons to do on your account, right? You're having to pull on back-to-back-to-back banners, which is not reasonable for a free-to-play or low spender, okay? Let's go ahead and talk about a Zhu Yuan team, right? Zhu Yuan team, Burnice really doesn't fit there because you're not running anomaly, so you can go ahead and throw that out of the equation. Realistically, you're not running her on a team with Ellen Joe as well, and realistically, you're not running her on a team with Chingy. I guess you could run her on a team with Chingy, but you're really focused more so on anomaly build-up with her. So you're really, I think this is more of a future-proofable unit just because of the fact that she is so anomaly based. You can kind of throw her in any anomaly based team. So overall, I do think this does make Burnice more future proofable for the fact that she does play into a niche quite well. Because if you're playing into a niche, usually you're not going to get power crept as often. Someone like her, on the other hand, which is a general overall character that works on a lot of categories, there are a lot of things that can be power creep that make her worse. Not to say that she still can't work, but despite what my comment section said in my other video of her not being that power creepable, I actually do think she is quite power creepable just because of the buffs and debuffs she does offer. On top of that, I think that there are a lot of better end slots in the game already, and that's only going to grow. That number of best end slots is only going to grow as time gets on. So I think we're going to put more power creepable here than what Burnice is able to offer here, just because of the fact that she is anomaly focused versus her, she's kind of focused all around. So this leads us to the final question after I've been recording for 51 minutes. Who should you pull? I think it really depends on your account. If you're looking for more anomaly based teams, like you already have like Jane Doe, Grace, you might have Seth or something like that, I think Burnice could be the option to go for here, right? Because I do think Grace does work pretty well with Anton. And then you can have two teams that are running two different types of anomaly. Then you can have two anomaly based teams really going in and popping off there. But contrary to her, if you're not looking to pull for an anomaly based team, I think that Caesar King's the obvious way to go here. She gets attack, she gets vulnerability, she gives shield, she gives a lot. She gives a plethora of different things things that a lot of characters in the game can't offer all the same thing, right? She's not the best in slot in every team. She can be best in slot for your current teams, but whenever you pull those characters, then I think she's going to get backseated. But I think for early game right now, the state of the game we're in right now, I think she'll actually last you on your team for quite a while before you can see upgrades coming to her. So for that matter, I think as of right now, I think she's going to be a really good option to pull. Maybe not as good of an option on rerun banners in the future, but as of right now, I do think that Caesar King offers a lot of value for free-to-play players and especially mobile players alike. So that's really all that I have to say about today's video. Tell me what you think in the comment section down below. Are you pulling for Caesar King or are you pulling for Burnice? Let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Or do you think my takes are just copium here? Anyways, gamers, that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one later. Bye-bye. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. No!